What's going on, everybody? And welcome to Event Marketing Redefined. I am your host, CEO of Rockway Exhibits and Events, Matt Kleinrock. Thank you for being here with us today. I have one of my senior account executives, Mollie Stahl, here with me, and we are going to discuss with you today how to launch new products or services at your trade shows. And we're going to give you specific example of a product launch that we did with 3M and Post-it and how we helped them launch their extreme Post-it notes at their trade shows. Mollie, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. It's been a little bit, but I'm excited. This is one of my favorite booth projects that I've ever worked on. So I can't wait to dive in and share.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm back.
You're back in the saddle here. And I'm glad this is one of your favorite projects. I think it's cool for a lot of reasons. One, it is completely experiential, right? Two, it is absolutely a very campaigned and themed product launch for 3M and Post-it. For anybody who doesn't know, 3M and Post-it launched a extreme Post-it note, okay, for extreme conditions, kitchens, construction sites, yada, yada, yada. We'll get to that stuff. And I believe, Mollie, correct me if I'm wrong, to set this up, but when they came to us for these discussions, it was essentially needing, I think it was 3 trade shows in the year. It was a 20 by 50, a 20 by 30, and then a separate concept as a 20 by 20. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So yes, experiential product launch, really good stuff. So let's start walking through this. So give me a little bit, when they came to us, what exactly was their ask? What were they looking for?
Yeah. So I want to dive in a little bit more about what the Post-it extreme notes are. So they're supposed to be water resistant, heavy duty, ideal for job sites, for job site notes, right? Because everyone uses Post-it notes or sticky notes. And then I think they had the idea of like, okay, on different construction sites, but they need stuff to withstand like wind, rain, heat, steam, everything like that. So they ended up launching something that's going to be able to stick to any challenging surfaces is kind of exactly what they say. Basically, they came to us. They were launching it. It was beginning of the year, I think it was 2018, and they wanted to create an atmosphere where the new notes were able to be used in real time. But it was the challenge for us, I feel like, was creating that experience inside. So they wanted to have like hands-on experience using these notes that are supposed to be used in challenging conditions inside at the trade show, and how to create this atmosphere inside at these different shows.
Yeah, which is really an interesting piece, right? Because what they're saying is saying, hey, we're launching this product. So they want to get it out at these trade shows in front of people that are going to buy, people that are going to use, people that are going to gravitate to the product. So essentially, we talk all the time when you create experiences or experiential, it's about theming. It's about immersing people in what you're doing. Right. So they were simply saying like, hey, this is an extreme Post-it note, and we need to kind of come up with some kind of environment that feels that way to people. So let's talk a little bit about kind of like how the process moved from them coming to you saying, hey, these are our goals. This is kind of roughly what we're trying to accomplish, and kind of how we started moving in the right direction and getting there with them.
Okay. So quick with like the design layouts, they basically, the 2 shows, the first shows that they were going to were very construction related shows. And then there was a 3rd show that was more of like a restaurant and food service. So they needed to come up with 2 separate themes. So we'll kind of start with the construction theme. That's okay, because that was the first ones that we did.
And that's the 20 by 50 and the 20 by 30, correct? That's the construction theme?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
So basically they wanted to use like the same booth at both of the shows, but obviously it needed to break down. So it was a concept of going, losing 20 feet from the 20 by 50 to the 20 by 30. And it was like, okay, well, what do we need to do to like make this come to life, right? Mimic it. There was like distinct areas, right, that these sticky notes can stick to that are supposed to be really great. It's like brick, wood, corrugated steel, and like drywall. So basically those are the 4 elements that they really wanted to highlight. So it's like, okay, how do we come up with what this looks like? And basically the theme that we ended up coming up with was like making this actually look like a construction site, like you're building like a building, right? So it was very open wood, scaffolding around the back sides of it. And then it was like a 4-room walkthrough experience.
That's what stood out to me the most when I look at the images of this. And I do believe there's a case study on our website. So if anybody wants to go to rockwayexhibits.com and then go to our case studies, there is a case study in there that shows the images of these exhibits with Post-it. But that's what stood out to me. most, Mollie, was the scaffolding, right? Because kind of building out the rooms with brick and stuff, that could have been cool and it could have worked. But the minute that the overarching frame of this exhibit was scaffolding, I mean, it looked like, I mean, I felt like I was walking on a job site, because that's what you see. You see scaffolding around a project, and then with the different areas. So I think that was a huge, we talk all the time about sensory, right? When you're doing experiential and trade show, and the sensory one is eyesight. And like when you're walking on a trade show floor, you don't see scaffolding. No. So you see scaffolding, it's going to grab your attention right away.
Yeah, 100%. I think it also goes to like a detail, right? It's like without the scaffolding, when you look at it, it would have been just like a weird, open concept, 4 rooms. So the scaffolding really brought the whole entire concept to life. But then inside, what the experience is that the attendees were going to have through and walk through were 4 dedicated rooms that highlighted each of the different surfaces that the sticky notes could be used. And so they first started off with like steel post inside of there. Another room was tile, and another room was brick. And then the last room was drywall with 2x4s in it. And so basically you're walking through the 4 rooms, and like, we even had like, the tile was real tile, real brick. I mean, we got those people on site from that we had to hire and bring them in there.
So actual people tiling walls and real brick and like actual, yes. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that, because I was just thinking when you said that, like experience and application, right? Mm-hmm. And that's essentially like one of my thoughts on this with product for people is that if you have a product, right? Is there an application to it? Is there an experience that goes along with it? I talk all the time on the show about the booth that was built for Monogram, right? And at the kitchen and bath show, they make like high-end appliances, and the experience built around it was like this Napa Valley, like wine, kitchen, food tasting thing. It's an experience immersing somebody in these appliances and atmosphere. With a physical product like this, a note, it was application and experience. So you're in a room that looks like a brick site, plus you're actually applying this note to brick, and you're getting proof of product in the actual space. I mean, how much better could it be?
Yeah, right. And then they even each room had some different elements inside of it, like spray bottles for like water, right? To have like rain. So you could see how the notes withstood up against water. Fans, they had steamers in there. They had different like freezers, fridges, because it just can withstand all these different elements to highlight how it can actually work in real time. So I thought that was super cool. So they had all of that, but yeah, like, and it was real, we got real steel, we got real tile, like it wasn't fake, it was just all real. So, going into those fine details about making it come to life down there, I think was really awesome.
I think one of the better things that we did, if we could pat ourselves on the back, is the 4 rooms. Because yes, visually the scaffolding and making it look like a construction site looks cool. It does. It's a sensory thing. Yeah. But engagement, how are we going to engage people with Post-it notes, right? And creating different rooms in different environments with the steel, with the brick, I think is a home run for someone to be, go and be like, let me see, like, come on, is this really going to hold on brick or something? Like, you're like, oh, wow. So now they're touching, they're feeling, they're writing on them, they're using it, right? There were notes all up on the walls and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the home runs in there, was the actual engagement. Was you should be using the product, but you can't just hand somebody a product and say, here, use it. You have to create something, some form of engagement, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah, no, it does. And I think another note to note is it wasn't just like one brick or one piece of tile, right? It was floor to basically ceiling. It was like, 10 feet wide by 8 feet high, 2-sided of this whole entire experience. A lot of people were able to use it at once, and it was just, it was grand, and it just looked awesome.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap what we're going through here is it's a 20 by 50 and 20 by 30 trade show booth built for Post-it. And it was meant to look like a construction site. Like the exterior of it was scaffolding. Obviously there were standard type areas around the perimeter and things like that are normal trade show space. But this thing had multiple rooms in it. It had multiple experiences inside those rooms with different materials, brick and engagement pieces there. I think it really hit the nail on the head visually, looking at it. And then of course, engagement wise, when you walked up, because who sees scaffolding on a trade show floor? I mean, you just don't see it. So that like shock value is there. People are like, what is that? What is Post-it doing? And I think those were big. Is there anything on the project, Mollie, that maybe I don't want to say surprised you, right? Was there anything that maybe you thought was super cool? Just anything that stood out to you really on those two exhibits? Like any details, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, then to note too, what we did for the 20 by 30 space is just basically took 4 rooms down to 2 rooms and
Reduced
put,
it. Yeah.
yeah, we put 4 elements, and there was 2 like
Yeah.
tile and brick together in one room and steel and drywall in the other. So we just downgraded it a little bit. But what I really thought, we're talking about how the execution looked, it was great, but being down there at the show and actually watching people engage with it, you think post-it sticky notes, you're inside like, okay, are these things actually going to work? And like that they actually worked, and how many people were in these rooms, and that it just worked. It was like exactly what they wanted to do. It happened. They brought people in, people were walking through that and they're like, oh, it's so cool. It's different. Everyone knows this, but it's a little bit different. And for me, I wasn't surprised that they had the engagement that they did, but it was just really awesome to see the success that they had on the show floor with everyone coming in.
I like that. That's like what you took from it, right? Because something that we've been talking about over and over is reverse engineering the experience that people are not doing. It's like, okay, people are not trying to begin with the end in mind and reverse engineer an experience before they create it. And then if you miss, you miss. It's okay. You tried. But essentially on this one, it didn't miss. We reverse engineered an experience with post-it notes and rooms and brick. And I think it's easy as you're building that thing to think like, oh, this room's too small. No one's going to walk in here. No one's going to care, right? You have your doubts. But for you to go down and see it, now you're like, we reverse engineered this properly. And that's really what I think experience is all about. One of the little details that I really liked, and I don't know why I always remember this, but at the top of the exhibit was a graphic, right? And it was like a Post-it, extreme note graphic, whatever. It was a tarp graphic. And we don't really do tarp graphics, but it had like a tarp look to it, like it was on a job site. And for me, that felt like a detail, you know what I mean? And I kind of just, I don't know why I recall that or something, but it's, I think those details is really, really important when you're trying to create an experience and immerse people in something.
Right. Yeah. And it was very like minimal branding too. I think they had like 4 of those signs that you're talking about around there. And it was, when you walk around a construction site and you see like, it is like tarp fence graphics that are covering something that's like coming soon. And it just really had that feel.
Yeah.
So I agree with you down to the detail.
So one thing I want to say just for people, because, we're giving you an experience that we created for a product launch and we're trying to walk you through. And I'm hoping that for people, it helps them come up with ideas for their own product launches or things that they're going to do at trade shows. But one of the thoughts that I had is, just from a fundamental standpoint, if you have a product or service or you're launching something at a trade show, right? Be thinking we need to create a theme. And the theme has to be built around the product or the service. Okay. And then you want to immerse people in the theme, because what that does is people always use the term connect the dots. It does connect the dots. If you're Post-it and you're selling an extreme sticky note that you've never sold before, and then you have construction people at a construction show, they're gonna be like, why would I use a Post-it? But it's extreme. And then they see scaffolding and then a brick wall. Those dots connect. That's what I mean by connecting the dots. And I think it enhances the launch to a degree. So be thinking about themes to tie in, be thinking about how to immerse people in that theme. And then my other note on this is, how do you create a theme through product usage, right? We were able to do that. I don't think on purpose. I think we kind of had the theme and then we're like, oh, this room would be cool. But if you could start thinking about how you want people to use the product and building themes around that, like, I think you can really go a long way when you launch.
Yeah, I think that's great. Right. And even like the kitchen detail too. So their next show, just to like give, more detail, right? The construction zone, it was a construction show, make the rooms all great. But then, they are going to a restaurant show in New York. And they were like, okay, well, what do we do? So basically, and we don't really love to enclose trade show booths, right? Everyone likes it open, come in. But what we did with this one, we just had one side open, 20 by 20, and it was supposed to mimic a commercial kitchen. So we enclosed it. We enclosed all the rooms, and we actually had like live chefs come in there. We had all of like your standard equipment that you would have in a commercial kitchen, right? There was a prep area, steel tables and shelves, fridge, freezers, stoves, cooking racks. There were a sink with running water, grill top. And so there was actual cooks like cooking on in there, right? The stoves were up with the steam, the sticky notes were up on the shelves where the steam was hitting. So you could actually see it in real time. So you could see like how it just rose up because there was a shelf under it, which would happen in real time, how it withstand with stainless steel. There was more water interaction with it, right? With like the sink and the running water. And then there's the chefs cooking in there too, real time. People could come in, see it, and it just like acted like a commercial kitchen. And then they were also giving out the samples for the food. So it just
I think that's great. Like the fact that we had the cooks, we had the stainless steel's kitchen, the steam coming up, food being made. And the fact, like we went against conventional thought on a trade show booth, which typically mean it would be open. We're like, no, we need to enclose it. It needs to be a commercial kitchen. It needs to be a full commercial kitchen. Yeah. So it really it looked like one. It looked like you walked in the back of a restaurant. So again, theme, immersion, right?
Yeah.
It's unique. Even though it's the restaurant show, I think when you go to that restaurant show, you don't see a booth that looks like a commercial kitchen. I mean, it did not look like anything else. It didn't look like a trade show booth.
Right. No, it did not at all.
So it kind of had that unconventional way there. I wrote one thing here because it just keeps coming up as a thought I have, which is like proof of concept through usage. And I think if you have a product, you have to, not that the concept has to be proved, but I think to somebody, it's like, I want to touch, hold, feel, I want to use it, but it's kind of like in the past, we've worked with Therabody before and they have those, massage guns. And it's like, well, you have to have how would you use a massage gun? Well, you'd probably be on your couch or you probably be in a chair or at the gym. Like you have to think about what those setups look like, so proof of concept through usage would be something I would tell people is people are going to use the product you want them to, but almost prove the concept through the environment, through kind of how you're having them use it rather than just saying, oh, here it is on a table. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. And especially in bigger spaces, right? Sometimes it might be hard to have a 10 by 10, but like, even if like for Post-it, if they just had like a slab of brick or like, steam or something like that, that they could actually real time be using it. I think that is so important that people can just be using it how you want them to be, because then they can see success. And then your chances of, the ROI coming back and going to these shows is just very strong.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you're saying about ROI and coming back, right? I mean, that's such an important factor in all of this. I mean, when you're going to these trade shows, and I think especially when you do product launches, like people doing product launch, I mean, those executives at companies, there's a lot of time went into these products, a lot of energy went into these products. So when you're going to put them out there first physically at a trade show, I think there's a lot invested into it. There's a lot of pride invested into it. So, it really needs to be done appropriately is what I would say. So let's go into this kitchen concept a little bit more, right? A lot of engagement in there, because if you are a restaurateur or you are somebody that orders administratively for a restaurant, you're a cook, I don't know what you would be at that show specifically, but you would be in a kitchen. It would feel like a live kitchen similar to yours. And if I recall, they were using Post-it notes in very like applicable ways, in a way that a chef would use a Post-it note, kind of showing like you can use these inside a kitchen. Is that correct? Because I remember they were up on the thing and up on the railings.
Yeah, no, that's correct. In every aspect, right? Where on the stoves, right? They were actually cooking. They had like pasta cooking right there, or whatever dish they were serving there. By the sinks too, like I said, like it was like full running kitchen. Like it wasn't just like, the product of someone selling a stove at this product, right? They were all working fully engaged in there. And so like everything from like the prepping station too, right? Where people are going to go prep to cook.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts inside of a commercial kitchen. And so they had the sticky notes in every areas to showcase like how they can withstand these different elements. And yes, like you said, they were everywhere.
As I'm going through this, I'm thinking, I'm just kind of writing some notes out as we're talking about this. And I think some of the things that this makes me think that works is I wrote in like, go all in on a concept. You have to concept something, right? Yeah. Like people will gravitate to that. I think those concepts have to be bold, right? They have to be good ideas. You have to take risks. If I'm going to give another tip here, it would be to dodge conventional thought, like to kind of say, sometimes don't be safe, steer away, And I think if you're able to do that, you can take your product and you can put a launch out there that people will remember, that people will appreciate being a part of. And if you're looking to create brand awareness, if you're looking to get orders, number one, if you're letting me use the product in the environment in a kitchen or construction site, I might order stuff right there if I can, right? Yeah. So you might be able to create orders right away. Mm-hmm. And then brand awareness wise, I mean, I'm going to remember that experience. So next month when I got to order my supplies, that's probably in order that I might make because I remembered that experience versus if it was lackluster, I might not remember.
Right, exactly. And I think going to like being bold, going outside the thought or conventional experience or, you know, whatever, you have to really strategize and put this thought to paper, you know, concepts like, you know, that we didn't just think about this right away and it came to fruition and it was a home run right away. Like, right, there was strategy meetings, like you really have to prep and plan for this to go all in to make sure that it is as successful as you think it can be. You can't just wing it.
How would you propose, let's say there's somebody listening to this that has a product launch and they have a trade show and they're going to reach out to an account executive like yourself. They're looking for help. They're, you know, reach out to a company like us and others. How would you propose they bring you their ideas, right? Like what is a good way for them if they have no idea versus if they have a grand idea? Like, how would you encourage them to put the idea out there to go get help, I guess?
Yeah, I think just being like honest, right? And being like, if you don't have any idea, but you know, you want to do something cool, be like, hey, like we want some help, and just, you know, be open and honest with like whoever your exhibit partner that you're working with. And if you have ideas or if like your company's dead set on one idea, just be honest about it, be open about it, as much detail as you can, I think, to your exhibit partner, right? For like post-it note, like we needed to know exactly how the product works to be able to create a concept to make the product launch successful. So to know as much detail as you can about that. And then, you know, I think setting up multiple strategy meetings, having them, and then being open to different ideas. I think sometimes some companies are like very stuck in their ways about, okay, well, we had this whole entire thought and idea and we want to do this. And that's great. And it can work sometimes, but, you know, to be open to other ideas that other people might have a different perspective coming out because they're not living every single day in the product, and just be open to different ideas.
That's great advice. Like, I think what you're saying about open and honest, like some of the most fun projects, just so people know, is when somebody comes and says, hey, you know, we have this new product or it's, you know, whatever. And they say, we want to be experiential. We want to do something different. We don't know what that is. I love that. Like, I think that's most fun when somebody's vulnerable enough to be like, hey, I don't really have an idea, but I know I want to do something different. That, I think, for companies like us, gets our wheels turning. That's us to say, okay, let's walk through this. Let's start talking about it. I think it makes the projects collaborative, which you really touched on. It's just like, are you going to be open to ideas or are you stuck in your ways? Because if you have an idea from an executive at your company that you guys have put together through marketing and that's it, and you just want someone to execute it, just say that, right? Just put it out there. So that transparency, I think, will get you the best results. And hopefully if you work with a good exhibit house, experience agency, event marketing company, whatever you want to call us, right? They have enough courage to push back if they don't like your idea.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Right. We had someone recently too, I'll give like another example, that they do software too. And so it's a little bit different from just a tangible product like Post-it notes are. And they came to us with like themes, and I won't give out too much because we're not done yet. Execute, we're still going through the strategy process about doing like a cul-de-sac, and like you're coming home, people are coming home all the time. So they want to go to the cul-de-sac. So they wanted to theme the booth to be either a cul-de-sac, but then they had this other idea internally that they came up with about like a museum and like maybe like the evolution of like their software and how that would look. After we talked internally, we like did not think that the cul-de-sac idea stuck with like who they are.
I remember talking about that. Yep.
And so like, it was like museum, but museum could mean a lot of different things, right? So right now we're like, okay, like what is like museum to you? And we pitched a couple different ideas about like how we can create like a museum type of feel. So I just think on your point, it's just being open, honest, talking back and forth. Like you might have some ideas internally and just be, you know, collaborative, or if not, and you have higher ups that are like, nope, we want to do that. We don't want to hear anything else. Just, you know, just say it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. Like we did push back there.
Yeah.
We just kind of said, we're like, we just don't see the connection. And we talked about it. We kicked it back and forth a little bit. And I think hopefully whoever people are working with has the ability to do that, right? Because I think that's where the best ideas come from. It comes from saying like, what's the why here? What are we trying to accomplish? It's not about a cool idea. A lot of people have cool ideas when it comes to face-to-face event marketing, trade shows, all that stuff. But it's really about the product, the service, the customer, the brand, putting all those pieces together and saying, what is going to be an experience that has the best chance of delivering and creating a return, creating brand awareness, driving pipeline. Like those are the things that matter. It's why you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Some people are spending. So I think that's really good advice. Mollie, do you have anything else on this that you want to roll through with Post-it? Is there anything on these extreme notes that you feel like you kind of want to run through?
No, I mean, you kind of hit on it, but like my thing I wrote, I'm like engagement. Like it just totally was that, right? The real-time usage of product. It was experiential. It was different. It stood out outside of like the sea of your regular standard trade show booth. So just to really, like we've been saying this whole time, like really think about it, how to theme, experience, going bold and going all in.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for people to wrap up here. Like, I think you cannot just do the run of the mill stuff. You got to be unconventional. You got to stand out. You got to create engagement. You got to fight to try to create it. And that means thinking about it, planning, strategizing, discussing, and taking a shot. The shot misses, it misses. And then, you do something different next year. So I think that's really good advice. Mollie, this was fun. Thank you everybody for listening. We hope at the end of this episode that we have been able to help you understand how to better launch products, launch services, changes in your business at your trade shows and events. And this is another episode of Event Marketing Redefined. I am your host, Matt Kleinrock, CEO of Rockway Exhibits and Events. Mollie, thank you for being here. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was.